Hello everyone, my name is Eric and today I'll be introducing you to Scrapy. Scrapy is a fast, simple and extensible web scraping library for Python, and there's a lot of fun stuff you can do with it. It comes with all the built-in packages that you need for web scraping, and yeah, let's jump right in. First, I'm going to be talking a little bit about introduction to Scrapy, what Scrapy is and how it works. Then I'll be comparing it to some other scraping libraries. I'm going to be talking about some use cases, how you can use Scrapy. Then we'll build our own web scraping tool. It's just a simple web spider. And then I'll be showing you some weaknesses or things that you need to take care of when working with Scrapy. Last but not least, I'll give you some tips and resources. So what is Scrapy? Scrapy is a robust and extensible web scraping tool. And once it is set up, it's very fast and it has some nice caveats. And I'll talk on this later more, but for starters, you can use all the built-in functions, and it comes with a request module and a parsing function, so you don't really have to worry about all of this. You just need to worry about how to get your data. So how does Scrapy work? Scrapy works like a regular scraping tool. So it does the request to the server. It does that asynchronously. And then it gets you back the data. So you can work with the data as an element or a variable. And if you want to access multiple elements, you just get a regular list for that. So why would you use Scrapy? You would use Scrapy if you need to reliably scrape simple websites, or if you want to extract large data sets. Like set it up and then just let it run, and you get a big data set that you can use for analysis with Python or for further analysis. So let's compare it to some other scraping libraries. So first of all, there's Selenium, which you should already know. Selenium is actually designed for testing and interacting with web pages, but it can also be used for scraping. The thing is that if you want to use Selenium for web scraping, it is very slow compared to Scrapy. And if you need to have it run automatically on a server, for example, it requires some tweaking, and it's not so easy because you actually have to start the browser interface. Then there is Beautiful Soup 4. Beautiful Soup 4 or BS4 is by itself cannot create requests to web servers. Fortunately, you can use the Python request module for that, but you can't do it all with one library. So you have to do two libraries if you want to be working with Beautiful Soup 4. And it's an excellent data parser for HTML and XML files, as I'm sure you already know. And there's also only sparse cases where BS4 is actually used to crawl a website. So this is where Scrapy comes in. Scrapy is actually designed for web scraping, so it's a great library. It can be used to extract the data from APIs right in JSON format. So that's actually a very convenient way to get the data you need. And it also can be set up to work with Beautiful Soup 4, or if you want Selenium. If you're not comfortable with the Scrapy commands for parsing, you can use the Beautiful Soup parsing mechanisms if you need to parse the website. Or yes. So what are some use cases for Scrapy? One use case might be that you need to extract a large data set from an archive-like website. You would do this on one time only, and you get a large data set, and you have your spider run one time only. Second use case might be that you need several data points in time. So you set up a scraper and have it run every day. So you collect the data every day from a news website, for example, and then you get time series data. A third use case is that you scrape user-generated content on portals like Reddit or Twitter. And depending on your further analysis, then you need multiple crawls, or you can just do it all in one. But that depends on the scenario. So let's start by creating a simple web spider. First of all, our goal is to create a web spider that crawls the news from our faculty at the Goethe University and then saves the data to JSON format. So let's start the browser and have a look at the site. Select our faculty. Just check. I think there's a bug in the URL link here. No, it works. Press Media News Archive. Okay, that seems good. So let's now go back into our Visual Studio Code. And as you can see here, I've already set up a spider for example purposes here. First of all, Scrapy works just like any other library. You can use it via the install commands, via package manager. Just put pip install Scrapy, or you can also use conda. That's up to you. Once you're done here, then you can start creating your project with the command Scrapy start project, and then run the name of your project. I won't do that here because I've already set up a project. But once you're done there, it will create the folder structure, as you can see here. And then you have a folder, a subfolder called spiders, and there all your spiders will be. Here I've already created a new spider, which we're going to be talking about now. So once you're set up with your folder structure, you can go back to the web page and let's have a look at it. We're going to start inspecting the elements. So you will really want to make sure that you know how the website is structured before you start writing your scraper, because once you know how the elements are structured that you need, you can easily scrape them. Or it's easier to get the data. So let's look at the articles we have here. We have here a list view with many article divs, and we have a parent div wrapping with the class news list view. So let's see how that actually looks out in Scrapy. For that, we're going to start up the terminal, and we're going to be using the Scrapy shell just to make sure that we really get the data we need. You can use that with the command line interface from Scrapy. It's built in, and you'll start it by just typing Scrapy shell, and it'll pop up like this. So now you can start with the fetch command, put it in hyphenation, copy and paste the URL, press enter, and then you get the message crawled to 100. This is a good message. If you're getting a 400 error or something else, this means that went something wrong. 200 means that everything went fine. So now we can actually work with our response element. For example, if you want to access some element in the response, you can use the .css method, and here you have to type in the class or the selector for the element. So Scrapy supports CSS and XPath. Now, obviously, you can't use XPath if you put in CSS here. So that's why we're gonna just stick to CSS for now. And let me just do it here. And I'll have to look at the class now. So we want to get all the articles. How do we do that? So now we see that there's a div class here with the news list view. I'm just going to copy this class, and then we have to access all the article elements. I'm just going to copy this class, then put the article in there, and let's see what we get as a response. So we see that we get multiple elements here with that selector and an XPath. And this is basically the elements in Scrapy. And now we want to see whether we can get the headline of one element, for example. So what we do the same, we use the same statement, but we just use a different selector. Now we use H3A. And if you want to, now we get all these simple elements here. And if you want to only get one element, you can use the get class, and we'll retrieve the first element in the list of set of matches. Now, if you want to get the text of the element, you can use the double column twice and then text get, and then you get the first element. For simplicity reasons, we're going to get the name, the teaser, and the date here. I've already set up a spider. So how do we do that? First, we're going to create a new terminal, and then you can do it by two ways. You can just create a new Python file. So let's do that here. myspider.pr. Python, and then you can just copy the code here from a template, or you can do it by yourself. Import Scrapy, and then create a class class my spider self.spider, because it's inherited from the Scrapy. Never mind, Scrapy.spider. So it's inherited from the Scrapy class, and you have to give it a name. And you have to input a start URL. For this case, we're going to be using, this is a list, so make sure you use the list variable. We're going to be using this URL, and then you can create your first parse function. Here I'm just going to copy it because we have the same selectors here. So first of all, how does it work? We have the parse function here. You get a self and a response. So the response is actually the HTML we get back once we've requested to the server. And now we want to be looping over our div articles here. As you can see here, we want to be looping over all of these. And this is what the for loop here does. So this is the selector here. We just use the response.css, just like we did in the Scrapy shell. And the yield command here just states that Scrapy should return this data. And for this reason, we're going to be returning it as a dictionary variable. Obviously, you can use any other, but I think dictionary is the best here because you get it right in JSON format, or you can just do further analysis with it. So once you've done this here. So you want to get the name, the date, and the teaser. We have the CSS command here, and we want to get the first element with the text. And now, as you can see here, further down, we have a pagination. And Scrapy has a very nice way of handling paginations, because you can actually get a callback for the function and make it recursive. So now we have Scrapy look for the next page. And as you can see here, there's a CSS selector, browse links web, no last child the second, which basically means that we need this element here. So we want to get to the next page. This is the second to last element of the set of matched browse links web elements. And this is basically what we're telling Scrapy here. We want to get the attribute and the href. So this is the link here, attribute href. So which will give us the next page as a return. And then if this is not none, so if the next page is not none, we're gonna return the response and then follow next page, and we're gonna be calling our parse function here again. So Scrapy recursively goes through all the pages here and saves the data or returns the data. Okay, so let's start and have our scriber crawl this website. So for this, we need to check that we are in the root directory of our project. Just let me switch here. Make sure that the spiders folder is in there. So now we can use the command Scrapy crawl and then the name of our spider. And we'll do all the crawling. As you can see here, there's a lot of data. And we can't really use it, so we get it printed out in the terminal. So what you can do now, I'm just going to stop it here. What you can do now is you can use the O and then put news en.json and put the output in a JSON file. So what this will do, it will create a file here, as you can see, and it will put out all the data that we're collecting in this JSON file, which is pretty convenient. So let's see. What do we have here? We have all the names, we have the dates, and we have the teaser texts. So that worked out pretty well. As you can see, it's still collecting data, and we can just leave it there. Now it's finished. And now you see that there's an item scrape count here, which is a really nice thing just to make sure that you get all the data you need, or you can just double check with the initial amount that you wanted to scrape. Okay. So now we've completed our simple web spider that scrapes the news page of the Goethe University. Here are the commands just in summary that we've been using, and this is the source code of the spider. And another helpful command is the Scrapy gen spider command. So if you don't want to create a Python file containing your spider, you can just use the Scrapy gen spider command, then put the name, then put the domain in, and it will automatically create the spider for you and do all the work here. So it will create a parse function here. It will create a class, so you don't have to worry about that, which is, I think it's pretty useful. So let's come to some weaknesses of Scrapy. So Scrapy basically, or basically all web scraping, do have some downsides. So websites change. So this means that there's a lot of change in the source code of websites. There's some change in the URL structure. You always have to be on the lookout for that. This also means that your scrapers require high maintenance, and especially if you need to use them over a longer period. Let's say you want to have a daily scraper and you use them for half a year. You want to collect data over half a year. So this will require a lot of maintenance. It's also that every website is different, so you have to rewrite your code for every website. And for Scrapy, it cannot interact with the website. It's able to send requests to the server, and it's able to retrieve data. So you can use form requests, for example. But unlike Selenium, which you can actually press buttons with, Scrapy cannot do that. So there's some tricky stuff that you need to do if there's cookie banners, for example, or if there are paywalls on your websites. I know that there are on some German websites, there are cookie banners, and you can't really do anything with Scrapy there. That's some things that you have to be aware of just when using Scrapy. And also Scrapy respects the robots.txt files out of the box. You can set a user agent and you can have a workaround that, but I wouldn't recommend it because they're there for a reason and you shouldn't be scraping those websites. So with more advanced websites, Scrapy, you need to, or if you want to scrape more advanced websites, you need to have in-depth knowledge of HTTP requests and the functionality of websites. So you need to check the network tab, and you have to check how the requests are being made to the server if you want to fully utilize Scrapy. And that's another, I think that's a high entry barrier if you want to learn Scrapy. But once you're mastering it, you can do really a lot of things. That's just some final notes. I would always recommend you to make a plan what data you need and in what format. Before you start coding, just carefully inspect the web page, get a sense of what the structure is like before coding the scraper, and then you can use the selectors and try to get a consistent result across all the websites. And also the cookie banners on European sites can be challenging for Scrapy. Example, you can check that on handelsblatt.com. Yeah, just see for yourself. Final notes, the documentation, you can just have a read there. I think it's pretty tough to understand at first, but once you really have to look for some things, it's doable. Some further resources are a video series, Scrapy called Scrapy for Beginners. I find that very useful, especially there are some cool tips and tricks. And also, if you need some inspiration or just some Scrapy snippets to get you started, you can check out this link. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to leave me some via the forum or via email. You can just send me an email. I'll be happy to answer. Also, I've put the full source code for this presentation on my GitHub profile, so you can just check that out and pull it and play it around with it if you want. So yeah, that's basically my introduction for Scrapy. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll be happy to answer some questions.